Here she is.
Who is she?
Miss Universe.
Universe.
She's a big weird minotaur thing.
Joking aside, Tauros, I owe you an apology. Because I put you on the back burner, and that's not a place that you belong. So this is my apology video. It's something that all YouTubers have to do in accordance to the terms of service, so here I am doing that. I apologize, Tauros. And if you'll allow me, I'll hop right into the video. Hi, I'm apologetically the Thesterninator, but my friends call me Stern. Welcome to the channel, and today we're doing another astrological Pokemon, and we are focusing on Tauros, the last of our main series of these videos, one that I've put off for so long, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because we already have a Tauros Pokemon named Tauros. Maybe it's because I did a Minotaur Tauros type Pokemon already for our Gravity Falls series. I don't know, but we're finally here, and I am so sorry, Tauros. I hope that you can forgive me, and I hope that I can do you proud with this drawing today. Well, this series of drawings, something special, and honestly, this is probably one of my favorite designs of the whole bunch. I don't say that to try and cover myself. I say that because I really wanted to go in. I wanted to make it something that was worth it to you guys for the wait, and I'm hoping that I was able to do that. It captures a lot of the motifs that I really enjoy from generations 2 and 3, which are the best generations. I will take no comments. And morphs those around this bull type figure. And along the way, I learned an awful lot about Tauros, what it means to be this sign, and what it means to be this type of person. And I'm hoping that I can surprise you a little bit, as well as create something that you thoroughly enjoy. So I started with this like egg-shaped body. I felt like I'd done a lot of quadrupedal hooved animals already, and wanted to do something different here. I wanted to do something that really captured the vibe and energy of Tauros in just this very like strong and powerful little tyke type of character, one that knew how strong it was even from the get-go. I took a little bit of inspiration from Tepig's line, but I didn't want to go full on into that, so I made this one a lot rounder, kind of gave it a little bit different expression, and actually kind of molded it more around Pokemon like Darumaka. It's a cute little round bouncy boy, and I love him. I wanted to do the horns as this kind of outcropping, oversized type of shape, something that makes this thing feel very unbalanced. It makes it feel like it is a first form. It hasn't quite grown into its own shape yet. I also gave it these tears just as this inference of emotion. As much as we kind of assume that Tauros are this bull in a china shop type of mentality, just rugged and there and angry, and I'm gonna make sure what I need to happen happens, as I studied and learned, I found out that there's a lot of complexity to this sign. Maybe that was what moved me away from it in the first place, was thinking, okay, I can learn about all these signs, but Tauros seems pretty straightforward. I feel like I'm saying Tauros, I mean Taurus, just let's move on with that, but I found that there was a lot more depth to this sign, and it's something I wanted to capture. So I gave it this demeanor and this shape and this size of being very aggressive looking, but having this much more gentle demeanor. It has this tail that I really wanted to incorporate that makes it feel almost like a bomb, like it's loading up that chaotic energy within it, but right now it's just this little guy. It gives you the idea that this is going to be something big. I've said it before, a first form should feel like a first form. It should feel like it's going to grow into something, like there's potential there. Not just, hey, here's some cool shapes and I'm gonna add to it, but starting with the ability that this thing would have potential. I think there's a difference, and I hear a lot of people talk about it, like the difference between Pokemon and Digimon, of let's add guns, but in Pokemon, the main motif here and the main idea is potential. And I think that that is a really heartfelt and strong aspect to take into these designs. When you start with something small, don't just add on to it. Give it something that it can grow into. And that was the main idea behind this Pokemon as a whole, at least its starter form. Bulad, the dual Pokemon. When a Bulad decides to charge, it will flare the spark of its tail to propel it forward. It may not be the fastest Pokemon, but it certainly believes that it is. And those horns are nothing to scoff at, as they are made of a specialized keratin material that becomes harder than stone when fully matured. When on the attack, they appear strong and powerful, but caught off guard, they are known to cower, standing with their horns at the ready, ahead of a shivering body. Of course, I had to make our Taurus sign a fire type. It has to have that fiery energy and personality to it that gives this kind of mix of being cautious and quick to attack. For the shiny, I wanted to capture that stone-heartedness that Taurus are normally associated with, so I gave it this stony exterior color, as well as gave it abilities Flash Fire and Reckless, with the hidden ability Flame Body. So interestingly enough, this is a great Pokemon to have on your team if you're looking to hatch some eggs. It's not very tall, but it definitely gives off the vibe that it is bigger than you may think it is. It has a big personality. Being that this is an apology video, I have to be honest with you guys. When I first started designing Taurus as a Pokemon, I felt I gotta go big, I gotta go mean, I gotta go scary. That's what Taurus is, right? That's what this sign means. And then I actually looked up the personality traits of a Taurus. I found that they are a mix of this duality between being several things all at once that all feel like they counteract each other, but at the same time work hand in hand. Taurus can be patient and yet stubborn, can be determined and yet jealous, can be generous and yet indulgent. And all of these things came to a point of me kind of questioning, how can this person exist? How can they work? How do you balance all of these things all at once? It seems impossible, and yet people who are of this sign do it every day. And so taking that into account, this weird duality of personality and the struggle that it must go through to balance all of these things day to day, I wanted to make something that captured that. Rather than having an angry or rage-filled expression, I wanted this thing to look determined. I wanted it to feel like all of these challenges and changes that come about being this personality type, to adapt and move forward with them, you kind of got to let them just slide off your back. And so I created this steam type texture that rides over the back of this Pokemon. That fiery tail of its previous form that we thought would turn into this giant engulfing flame instead creates this steam, creates this smoky type of texture. We can allow this fire within us to burn us down, or we can allow ourselves to control it. And I wanted to capture that here. I wanted this Pokemon to feel like it was that duality. I took those horns and I expanded them over the head to kind of capture that hard-headedness that Taurus are associated with, but also giving it that defensive look, giving it that ability to be determined without looking mean, to feel like a threat on the battlefield without looking angry or scary. So I took that and I also gave it these signs and lines across its body almost to make it look like it was a rocket, make it look more technological without being a robot. So it has kind of these rocket ship style symbols on it, like these arrows that kind of cut in these lines across the chest and body that make it feel almost kind of like a Fraligator or like a Flygon type, where it's just very sleek, very smooth. And I dig it. I dig it so much. Like I said, I really struggled thinking of what to do with this until I actually sat down and did it. And the moment that I did, I found that this thing was very quickly becoming one of my favorite designs. It captures so much of the things that I really enjoy with the previous generations 2 and 3, and when I started to look at these generations and break them down alongside this design that I'd come up with, I realized that they themselves are balances between these structures. Fraligator is this intimidating creature, and yet somehow I love it, and I can totally see it just being my little buddy. And I think that a lot of those aspects that I enjoy in design were captured here. Balance, the dual Pokemon. The aggressive exterior of a Balance shields a soft-hearted and caring Pokemon. It has foregone the explosive qualities of its previous form and adapted to be both sensitive and powerful. Don't be fooled, however, as this Pokemon can still pack a punch, and its horns have extended both outward and inward to create a skull-capped expression. The soft mist flowing over its back can fill any enclosed area in a matter of seconds, especially when Balance gets on all fours and breaks into a sprint. For the shiny, I went with more traditional colors that actually harken back to the previous form, being that reddish-brown color. But for the main color, I wanted to make it blue. I wanted to associate it kind of to Babe the Blue Ox from Paul Bunyan folklore, and I know an ox isn't the same thing as a bull, but I don't care. I think that the blue really works, especially when bringing in that mist that just wafts off the back. I think that is such a cool concept that I was able to play with and able to bring to life here. I imagine this thing breaking on all fours into a sprint and that mist just flowing, trailing behind it. What we would have thought would be this explosion of fire is instead this balance of fire and water becoming this mist, which brings us to our typing. It is a fire and water type, something that I don't particularly like in a lot of Pokemon. I've tried to design a few and I think I've been successful in a couple of areas, but Volcanion is not my favorite Pokemon and definitely not one that I felt worth the wait in getting to that fire water typing. Sorry, I know that's divisive, but that's just what I think about it. You'll notice that for the category, I went from dual type to dual type. So its previous form was dual type as in fighting, D-U-E-L. But upon evolving, it takes on the dual type, D-U-A-L, being that it is a balance between itself. And I think that that is really, really cool. Really just a beautiful sentiment. And I know I am beating a dead horse here, and I know that I am kind of tooting my own horn, but I think it's a cool concept, and I'm really glad that I was able to kind of figure out what to do with this. Sorry that it took so long. Hey, before we jump into the last design, I wanted to remind you that we have a Discord where you can join in with our community. We've got a lot of great people there and a lot of cool stuff going on, as well as a giveaway starting, I think today. We're dropping further information on how to enter that giveaway. So it's going to be super awesome, super exciting. I hope that I can see you at that Discord. You can also support me through Ko-fi, Patreon, all that fun stuff, all linked down below. So I hope that I can see you there. And without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right back into what we were talking about before. I think it was Tauros. I don't want to forget them again. It's been so long. Research addendum. But Lance has been acting differently recently. As the seasons have begun to change, it appears as though he's distracted by something. I've caught him wandering out into the field late at night and just staring up at the stars, as though there was some kind of wisdom to him, something that I couldn't understand. What's the matter, bud? Something bothering you? I'd ask him as I'd try to lead him back into the barn, but tonight he wouldn't let me. He was determined to stay out there, and I was just about to call it quits, heading back into the house when I caught it. I caught that light. He began to emanate this glow like he did when he first evolved, but this was different somehow. When the smoke and show had cleared and I was finally able to get back to the house, he was different. And I was scared. But he leaned down and he put his head to mine, and I knew that while things had changed, that we'd be okay. He made things okay. For this aligned form or awakened form, I'm still not sure what to call it. I wanted to go bigger, but I didn't want to take away from any of kind of what I felt that design previously had earned. I thought, what is it to be able to balance oneself against so many different aspects of oneself? Well, it makes me think of a superhero. Makes me think of someone who has this rage and this ability within them, but at the same time, this tremendous compassion, the capacity for good, despite everything in you telling you that you have the ability to do bad, that you can have this rageful temper, but at the same time, you can use that to help people. You can use that to be better. And I think that's the struggle that a Tauros goes through. I think that every sign has its own struggles, but we also have our own gifts. And as I've gone through this series, that's something that I've come to understand. That as an Aries myself, I may be hard-headed. It may be difficult for someone to try and communicate with me when I've got my mind stuck on something, but there's also good. And I think it's about focusing on that good, whether you be a Tauros or an Aries or a Pisces or a Gemini or any of these other signs that I've captured in these videos. There's so much good that can come of who we are just as individuals. We don't have to try and change what our composition is. We can just take what we have and allow that to change us for the better. And for that reason, I wanted to give this awakened form this almost superhero type look. He's big and he's beefy and he's scary, but he utilizes it for good. And that's an aspect that I hope that I can someday see further in myself. I may not be a Tauros, or a Taurus, or however you want to pronounce it, whether I'm talking about the sign or the Pokemon, I may not be that, but I hope that I can encapsulate some of the things that I've learned about the positives of being that sign. I hope that we all can. I think it's impossible for us to assume that we'll just stay the same forever. And it's about moving that trajectory. Sure, we're gonna change, but can we try to change for the better? And if we make a conscious effort to do that, then maybe we can be better. All right, let me hop off this soapbox here and get back to the design. I wanted to bring that mist in more. I felt like that was such a big property of this design that it's something that I wanted to make sure continued to flow through into this aspect, that it was engulfing in positive ways. I wanted to get that aspect that flame from its first form is still there, but now utilized differently, now utilized in different ways that can do more good than damage. And I know that fire is only as evil as the people who wield it, but I wanted it to feel like this was complete. And so here we have Balance in its aligned, awakened, what have you form. It's awesome. Like I said, I love this thing. It became very quickly one of my favorite designs, and I'm hoping that it was well worth the wait to you guys as well. It's still that dual DUAL typing, fire and water, but its shiny also encaptures that same color variance that we used in the previous form. He's gotten a lot bigger. I wanted it to feel like this was a bull. It was big. It was powerful. And the other thing that I wanted to capture in the design and my reasoning for kind of having this mist or this smoke or this vapor surrounding its shoulders, head, and arms and tail in this way was because I picture that when this thing runs and gallops and when it has a direction that it wants to push itself, it becomes almost unstoppable. It becomes, at least vision-wise, this cloud of smoke, this thing that you can't stop, you can't grasp, and you can't just get in the way of. When it has a goal, it runs to it almost as if it is just the air itself, with a bull skull kind of attached to the front. I don't know. I don't know where that metaphor starts and ends, but I thought it was cool at the time. So this is our Taurus Pokemon, and this is kind of the end of our astrology series. Well, not the end. Still got a little bit more to do. There is, of course, that extra sign that I haven't gotten to, and I did promise that Capricorn I would do an extra for you guys as well, since I got confused and decided Capricorn was a horse instead of a goat. So you'll see a couple more videos. I don't know when they're gonna drop, but they'll be there, and they'll be part of this series too. But I've rambled on enough. I hope that this apology is enough for you, Taurus, and it sounds a lot like you know where to find me. So I will catch you in the next video. Bye.